Good everyone. My name is Aryan Majpai and I'm from India. I'm an undergrad student and today I will be speaking for the MOOC 26. I hope you all may find you learn something interesting as this is an important topic which has been ignored by the academia and the policy making sector. And I hope some action will be taken uh, post the MOOC 26. So I'll just share my screen to share the presentation I have made. This is an image from a very famous Pixar movie, one of the movie which actually brought me into the sector of environment and climate change. I always start all of my presentations with this screenshot of that from that movie. Towards the end, I will be telling which movie I've taken the screenshot from. So let's talk about climate change. You may have heard it in the form of art, in the form of protests, in the form of debates, in actual natural disasters, in the form of songs, and even this famous clock, which actually tells us how much time do we have left before we can take any action. And we also have the solutions such as the solar energy, the wind energy, sustainable fashion, sustainable agriculture. Some countries such as Netherlands have built walls to prevent rising sea levels, and the novel ways such as planting trees and protecting a natural habitat. But today I will be talking about migration due to climate crisis in South Asia, something which is comes under the realm of commonsensical knowledge, but still has been ignored, especially by the governments. Climate migration is a very old phenomenon where people have been migrating from places to adapt to their environment or maybe escape from it. Some examples include snowstorms, blizzards, volcano eruptions, earthquakes, etc. It's an old phenomenon. It is nothing new. But our leaders don't think climate change is exactly real, and which is not because they lack knowledge, but because it does not serve their interests. And it is time that we tell them to take these issues as important. So this is from a report from IDMC. You can see the name of the organization on the right bottom corner. This is a report which says the total number of displacements specifically in 2019, which took place due to conflicts and due to disasters. Now, if you see very closely, you can see that almost three-fourths of the displacements have taken place due to climate change factors. These include geophysical reasons like earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and other include weather-related events such as storms, wildfires, droughts, floods, extreme temperatures, etc. And among these events, you can see most of these displacements happen in South Asia, where countries like India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, these all are there. They constitute the world's maximum amount of displacements. This is due to the factors that these are the developing countries who do not have enough adaptation and mitigation strategies, and at the same time, these are the ones which are most vulnerable to climate change impacts. The disasters happen in the form of land degradation, desertification, rising sea levels, cyclones and floods, and due to other factors. As you can see, the three disasters which are located on the left hand of the side of the screen are called as the slow onset disasters, which happen in a period of about months or even years. On the other hand, things like cyclones and floods happen in a very short span of time, and these are called as the extreme events. Now, the report which I showed you earlier only considers the extreme events which happens within a period of a day or maximum a week. The reports do not consider the slow onset events such as rising sea levels or desertification, which are increasingly becoming a problem. They are not considered because they are hard to measure, and climate migration is a very complex issue and does not involve and what's a complex a huge range of factors such as economic factors, socio-political factors, etc. It is hard to divide, to segregate the importance of climate from the other factors. The Global Climate Risk Index, produced by German Watch, an organization, says the South Asia is one of the most vulnerable regions to the climate crisis. So this is how it happens in most of the South Asia. The climate crisis affects agriculture, which is one of the most predominantly income producing jobs which people do in this region. More than half of the population in all of South Asian countries resides in agriculture. The climate crisis affects agriculture in the form of heat waves, abnormal rainfalls, desertification, etc. Coupled along with that, you have poor governance, lack of job security, and low income. Many people are leaving agriculture as we talk. The average age of a farmer in the region has increased up to around 55 to 65. And this raises two simple questions. Who will be growing our food in the near future if agriculture is not an important job? And where will the people who are exiting the agriculture field go? These people who leave the agriculture field migrate to cities or urban centers. These people then work in informal sectors, which again actually emit emissions. For example, a person who is leaving agriculture in India will go to an urban center where he will work in a brick kiln or relatable places. Places such as brick kiln or mining activities themselves are a form of emission, and hence they contribute to climate crisis, and hence the whole cycle continues. These questions have been asked by the government in India. As you can see, this question pertains to a question asked by a minister in the Lok Sabha, which is the place where laws are made in India in simple language. And as you can see, the government has easily said that they don't have any data related to that. They identify features such as industry and services, increasing urbanization, and low income in agriculture, but they do not provide any solutions. The decline of agriculture in the region is one of the most important contributors to migration in the place. As you can see, the central government just shifts the responsibility from the central to the state government. With relation to climate change, a more direct question which has been asked with direct reference to the climate migrants has been also asked in the Indian Lok Sabha, but again, no such data available was the answer given to the person who has asked the question. Countries which have been suffering from climate migration from a long time, such as Bangladesh, have on the other hand already included climate migration as an important part of their National Adaptation Program of Action and their climate change strategy and action plan. And this has been done back in 2005 and 2009. So you can assume that the effects of climate change have been important to the country since a very long time. According to Oli Brown, author of the International Organization for Migration, he says, so far there is no room for climate migrants in the international community, both literally and figuratively. This is because of a variety of reasons, which I'll discuss in a few moments. The climate migration is generally seen from a state security focus, which actually focuses just on the resources available to a state. It is wrong for a multitude of reasons. First, this narrative assumes that most of the migration which takes place happens across borders, which is not the case. The majority of the migration which takes place due to climate-induced factors happens within the borders. The states want to avoid the responsibility and want to shift the focus to the other countries, which is why they say that this is a problem in which they should increase the border security, which is not the answer. For example, India built a wall on the India-Bangladesh border to prevent the migrants from coming into the country, which is not the solution, because climate change is a thing which affects multiple countries. It is not limits to a specific border, and this the countries have to realize. So what should we call them? Environmental refugees, climate migrants, displaced person, environmental migrants, or climate refugees? There's a lot of terms, but among these only 2 terms are correct, and the international community nowadays only consider 1 term correct: environmental migrants. The reason why we cannot call them refugees is because the term refugees is not identified by the international law, and this prevents the countries from taking up responsibility again. Hence, IOM, which is the International Organization for Migration, defines environmental migrants as persons or group of persons who, for reasons of sudden or progressive changes in the environment that adversely affect their lives or living conditions, are obliged to leave their homes or choose to do so, either temporarily or permanently, and who move either within the country or abroad. Be careful to use the term environmental migrants rather than using the term refugees, again, because refugees are not identified by the international law. As you can see this map from the South Asia, the arrows signify the paths of migration from important cities especially in India, ranging from Nepal and Bangladesh. Since there is a lot of security between the Pakistan-India border, no such path has been identified, but they have been assumed that there are several paths between Afghanistan to Pakistan. All of these countries severely are affected by climate change impacts. As you can see, the red line indicates the decline of the Himalayan regions. The second line indicates the decline of the coastal regions. The deserts are also, the desertification is increasing in the west part of the South Asian region, and the middle part is engulfed by illegal mining activities. As you may know, that South Asia is home to approximately 1 billion people, and the population is increasing rapidly. So in such a case, with the Himalayas declining and the coastal region becoming destabilized, along with rising sea levels in countries like Sri Lanka and Maldives, I don't particularly see a lot of space left for a population as large as South Asia. And hence this calls for an immediate action. And I am not making jokes about any of this. These are the reports which actually prove the evidence for the previously given map of the South Asia. As you can see, the Himalayas are losing ice along with the desertification increasing in the country, in the region. So I will now explain how actually migration takes place and how it can happen when it comes to the rural areas. There are factors which may cause migration in the first place, such as climate-induced disasters. There are factors which may lead to degradation after migration. For example, people go to a place, they use of the resources extensively without giving the resources enough time to grow back, which will lead to degradation in the first place. There are other factors which may push people in the affected places. For example, let's consider a city in eastern India named Kolkata. If a cyclone strikes that place, people will leave it. But again, that will give them, but that region will have opportunity for infrastructure development. That means more jobs. More jobs means more money. And hence people will go to that area to earn money. Hence, there are different factors. It is not always the case that people will migrate away from the place, but there might be sometimes when they go to the place where the climate change disaster has impacted. Now coming to the rural areas. If you can see this infographic, you can easily see that rural individual characteristics such as the rural-urban migration, rural migration happens. It may lead to job availability. The job availability is an important reason why migration happens to the rural-urban area. Rural migration happens because, for example, if a place has poor soil quality, people will move out to another place. But since they only know agriculture as a form of job, they will prefer to move to a rural area where they can again take agriculture as another activity. Again, other factors include why actually the people migrate in the first place. Whether it is the poor quality, such as whether it is a negative reason such as decrease in soil quality, yields, water contamination, etc., or whether is it because of positive reasons such as government and NGO policies, and extension services, etc. Hence, it is important. Hence, again, I will mention this that migration is a complex issue, and there are several factors which may influence a person moving in or out of the place. Climate change affects different sectors of population differently. Among the worst hit are the people of minority religion, people from minority caste, women and people from the LGBTQ community, the people who have low income, etc. As you can see, these are some reports, some media reports which have been taken, which can tell that climate change has different impacts all over the region. For example, consider these red dots again from the map. Climate change can also lead to other human rights issues such as trafficking. For example, there have been reports which say that when a particular place is impacted by a climate crisis, people tend to get their girls married fast. Why is that? Because people think that since if the girls get married, they will become the responsibility of other family due to the existing patriarchal culture, and hence they won't have to spend enough money on their own daughters, because they will become a part of someone else's family. Hence, child marriage is also an important is a result of climate-induced disasters. Trafficking may also happen due to such factors. For example, if a place gets hit by climate disaster, then people will migrate and become vulnerable to trafficking because they will be in search of jobs. They can be easily manipulated because they need money, and hence they get trapped in the web of trafficking. The red dots signify the major trafficking destinations of places in South Asia. And here is where I end my presentation. Climate, as an ending note, climate migration is a complex issue and is affecting millions of people in South Asia. Action is needed from both the research side and from the policy making side, along with the formation of civil society organizations, which actually promote this, which actually talk about this topic, which is becoming important. Thank you.